Okay,
Okay.
we have a new part of this interesting meeting with Moshiya, and he's going to answer us a question that I said, but I will not repeat it. He will take to answer us. Thank you, Moshiya. Come on.
Okay. Now, how can we use this knowledge to free ourselves from the enslavement of our principles, of our animal nature within, our emotions that control us? First of all, is to be able to stop identifying with that animal nature. That means when I say I am scared, then I'm identifying with the fear, which means me and fear are one. When I say I am scared, then I am identifying with that animal nature, fear. So identifying with I think and I feel should change into a conscious awareness of saying, I realize there is fear rising, but that is not me. I can separate myself from it and be the observer, which is difficult to start with because your whole life, those animal natures have dictated you. Those animal natures that have made a link with the brain have come reasonably knowledgeable. An animal doesn't think, but still responses to his instincts, his animal nature. He's scared, then he runs away. If he's hungry, he will catch that animal and eat it. All those things are natural principles of those emotions. We, on the other hand, have the ability to differentiate and become masters of those animals, which means we have to start to look inside ourselves. To know thyself is not to know the personality, because the word personality, like we said last time, comes from the word Latin meaning masks. But to differentiate between our animal nature and our true nature, which is the light, the pureness that is. Now, our heart is completely filled with our emotional natures. And when it's filled, there is no unity in the heart. Even what we call love is a conditional form of love. Very simple is, I love you when you love me. Or we might even think that we are not conditional towards somebody that we love. But if that would be the case, there would never be a divorce, there would never be a fight, and there would never be a struggle. Because we would be totally forgiving, we won't be weighing things. It's the same like, if I would know all, then I cannot be angry at somebody that doesn't know, because I know how difficult it is to distance yourself from identifying. And especially because ego, our emotions, can only be alive when they get fed. Which means if I'm angry, I see only the world through a very narrow point of view. That is because that personality mask of anger only collects of itself. So it will always want to be alive. So the more it collects, the more it tries to recognize of itself in the world. That's why some people or addictions grow. Some people become very negative personalities, because once it collects a lot, it also recognizes a lot of itself, because in every situation, which is a little bit different, it has collected a little bit more links to reasons. If I walk into a room and I am having a fight with somebody, then the rest of me, my inner body, also picks up all the other things in the room in the moment that I feel anger. So when I come into a room that has the same smell, my anger will be triggered for no reason but for a piece of smell that was equal to the situation of another moment that I was angry. So it grows and grows and grows. Plus, because it's connected to the mind, which is also polarity, positive and negative, the animals becomes not wise but knowledgeable, and uses the mind to feed our personality with thoughts which stimulate the necessity of feeding itself. That means sometimes the personality, the emotions could make you feel very high, and it gets a little bit of energy to live, like happiness or love, although it's not pure, but it feeds itself. But losing it makes it enormously fall down, and you feel enormously sad, enormously stressed, which is more energy he can suck, because it doesn't care about you, it only cares about its own food. At the price of you, your body will suffer, your immune system will go down, you get diseases, you get stress with all the side effects of it, but the emotional body is feeding itself. And
Yes,
your life energy is drained.
of course. Some kind of thinking, thoughts that you are giving us are related to the crisis which is living the world in our time. I
Yes,
think it, I cannot see it separate from the crisis of the virus in the whole world, which is multiplying then by itself through fear, emotions, angry, and demonstrations, but without accessing to love, wisdom, and compassion, long, a long distance from these
correct.
gods seen in our deepest essence. It's not
Yes,
connected. This situation is
correct.
pushing the human beings to disconnect even more if
Yes.
we don't reverse the situation to our inner
Yes.
love.
So, so what really has to happen is we have to purify our heart by not letting the emotions dictate us, so the energy can flow through and eventually rise out, making connection outside that material world that encloses us, in which we can only reflect upon ourselves. The, the important thing there is it's easier said than done. because we are
Yes,
so
of course.
conditioned. We are so conditioned to our personality, our I am, that we first have to start to look inside, look at previous emotions, and see how they made us look at certain things. We also have to see that when we start this life, we start with a not knowing. So we make a first judgment of things, which already based purely on outer appearances.
Yes.
And gradually we add to it, but it stays an outer experience. It stays, even if we look inside, we can look at the technical parts of our body, but it's still material, a material thing. We are in nature spiritual beings, non-material beings. We are in it,
Yes.
but we should not be of it.
Of course.
Yeah. So, but we start
Okay.
with looking inside. We start to look how blind our perception is, viewing it from an emotional point of view, and how it conditions our life. Once we see that in ourselves, we start to get a little bit more willpower to say, right, I don't let myself be guided by it. So bit by bit, we can separate ourselves a little bit from it. So much so that we can see also that other people, we always point at other people. We point at the government for the situation we are in, but they too are blinded by the same principles. So instead of being hateful and pointing at them, we have to have a little bit more compassion, because we know and we experience it in ourselves how difficult it is to free ourselves from our emotional driven principles, because a lot of it we don't even realize. Men more even than women, we don't realize, because we think emotions is a weakness, so we ignore those feelings and we only listen to the brain, but the emotions are still guiding that brain. Although we are pushing feeling away because that is, we don't want to know, because that is feminine. We don't want to be feminine, we want to be male, but we are still guided by it, only more intellectually. But intellect is only a measurement from what we know. It is never seeing more or be able to calculate more than what it knows. We can see those principles even in science. Science has a theory, and when it tries to understand, it comes up with a theory and tries to prove the theory, and therefore automatically trying to reject that which doesn't fit into it.
Yes.
We get people that are searching into the microscope to find the answers into those little things, and we have scientists that look at the other side of the universe to try and find the answers. What they don't do is see that if there is a unity law, the theory of everything, then it must be interwoven with everything. So there must be principles in everything that is connecting those, but they don't do that. They look into single things to try and find the answers. But we too, we do exactly the same. We too, having a theory or a belief system, and we take which fits and reject which doesn't. And that's our blindness. That is the real blindness, the shadows on the walls.
Of course.
The principles, of course, are because light, that all-knowing light, that's consciousness, pure awareness. And when it is separated in those 7 different rays and reflections of it, we lose our ways. Because we don't believe in that light, that oneness anymore, because that's the fall of humanity was. The eating of the apple was nothing more than to believe in the differentiations of the emotional states. And we got disconnected of that oneness.
Very,
Yeah.
very nice.
Snake,
Thank you,
the animal.
Moshiya. We can do a pause now. Stop. I need to do it.